Well, welcome back, everybody, and for our weekly WeAwake uh, global meditation. And thank you for all the cards and letters. We actually didn't get any cards, but thank you for all the nice emails and messages that we've gotten, and telling, saying how much this means to you, and thank you, because it means a lot to us too. And yeah, it's I can't pretend everything's a pretty picture right now in the exterior world, in the political scene in our country. It's just been a disaster. And we have this, oh God, this beached whale of a madman president who's in his last days, and will we get to the 20th without him in doing and horribler. And anyway, it's really upsetting. And I've had some personal struggles with it, where people that I'm close to and really care about have kind of gone down the rabbit hole of alt-right, Trumpism and QAnon and all of that stuff. And boy, it's a powerful thing, And the thing about conspiracy theories is that they don't require evidence. But if they sound cool, or and that oh yeah, man, and you get this thing that I've got this inside information, and I'm smarter than everybody else because I figured this out. I'm into this Q group, and we know what's happening. Yeah, and there's this pedophile ring in the government, and blah blah blah, and Trump is trying to save it. Oh, huh? What? Really? And people believe this stuff. And I'm not this big righteous figure. I was in a cult for about 8 years when I was a teenager in the early teens. So it's not like, oh, I'm so smart. I never got sucked down any of these weird trips. But when I finally broke away from the cult, I had to clean the slates and say, hey, I don't know what the truth is anymore. I know some probably good things and some true things happen there, but it's all mixed up with the bullshit and the lies. Okay. So I'm just going to have to take some time to be away from that and sort it out and figure out, what the truth is. And, I went into the military, which gave me a break from all that. And, yeah, the military was a lot of discipline, and they were screaming at me and training and all this stuff. And it was like, God, it was so much easier to be in a cult. They were just messing with, my mind. They weren't messing with my soul. They were just trying to make me a good soldier. And I was like, yes, drill sergeant, go ahead, kick my ass. I need it. I had a really positive attitude. Anyway, it felt good. And I started reading independently at that point, and started taking night courses. And then I got out of the military. I went directly to college, trying to get my brain sorted out. And I loved being in the university, just listening to all the classes and getting all the perspectives. And it was a beautiful experience. And we just had a email person who, if you're out there, God bless, thank you for that, who just kind of got out of not just kind of, but just came out of a cult too. And also, and just in that stage of sorting things out. And that's a real good place to be. It's a real good place to let go of all your presuppositions and just say, okay, what is truth? And I was like, hey, if I turn out, just a materialist atheist, if that's what I find it out, if that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. I don't care. I just don't want to be deceived anymore. So I have pretty good cult dar, and have been really fond of a lot of spiritual teachers over the years. I once quipped that I prefer my spiritual teachers dead. I can listen to them on YouTube or read their books, and they can't mess with me. They can't, try to get in my pants or try to get in my wallet or, all of this stuff. And there's a lot of great spiritual teachers that I have found out there that I count my friends who are doing magnificent jobs and are just good people, have lots of integrity. But you do have to be careful. And yeah, and if they're too charismatic and they're too convincing, look out. Warning, Will Robson. So all that to say, we're in a hell of a situation. When we're recording this, there's 6 days left, the 20th, and we have a transfer of power, and a lot of mayhem can come out. So what do we do? Why are we practicing together? What's the benefit of us being here and doing this? Well, we talk about in integral theory the three faces, three perspectives on God or divinity or whatever you want to call that. And the first one is the third person, where we talk about spirit or God as a theologian would. This is, we're studying it as something out there and looking, reading, how's brain science work with this? How does, the mystics, what the church is saying, you put it all together, get pictures, theology, stuff of God. That's third person perspective. The first person is when we have those moments of enlightenment, where we feel that we have an encounter with this divine force. It can be very, very powerful, illuminating experience that seems to be hyper real. In other words, it seems to be more real than just our normal, bump into desk and reality. And yeah, it can be life changing. And then of course it's a state which only lasts for a bit, but it does leave a resonance. And then you have to figure it out. Like, okay, what does that mean? How am I going to interpret that? I think it was Jesus, because that's what I'm prone to, but what was it? And figure it out and see if it was a good thing, see if you were delusional, see if it had truth, if it had value. You have to figure out all these things out. And then there's a second person with divinity, where we do petition, we pray, we communicate with the divine. And a person asked me, we're having a conversation, and she said, well, I don't believe in a personal God. I said, well, are we being personal? She said, yes. And I said, well, there you have it. In other words, it's all God. And one of the aspects of God is being personal. So whether it's other human beings or my beloved dog or whatever it is. So that is an aspect of reality. So we can actually do that. And I think a lot of us who came out of, cultish, religious, conservative things that we left behind, we said, no, I don't believe this anymore. I don't believe all the mythic tales and what the preachers are trying to tell me. Kind of left behind that second person loving, beseeching, communicating guidance. And I think one of the things that helped me to re-own that is I had a teacher and a mentor, Wallace Black Elk, who was a quite famous Lakota medicine man. And I knew him toward the end of his life. And in the sweat lodges, when he would come to the West Coast, it was my job to pick him up at the airport and then take him around and get him set up. And I spent a lot of time with him. And he downloaded a lot of stuff with me. And I did a lot of ceremonies with him. And he was a really good, humble, sweet man, And when they pray to Wakanda, the Great Spirit, and the divinity and the sacredness in all things, all my relationships, Matakwiyas, Aho, Matakwiyas, to all my relationships, it means the animal, the trees, the water, the people, your brothers and sisters. It's really, really a beautiful form of, they wouldn't call it this, but monotheism, that the Great Spirit, the Spirit that runs through all things, is there. And it really helped me to come back to that. So what I'm suggesting for those of us who have made that connection, that in our meditation today, that we use that second person perspective with divinity, that we actually pray and we ask for help, we ask for guidance, and we ask for all of this stuff, that's craziness that's unfolding right now. And like it or not, America is really important in the world right now. We just have a huge economy, have a huge military. Culturally, we're really big, and when we fuck up, it really hurts the whole damn. So, Creator, to get that right path so we can be a blessing, a light on a hill instead of just a curse. And there I go. Right up, but I think a lot of us are suggesting that in this thing that we you experiment with that. If you're comfortable with that, just ask for that guidance and help and healing and wisdom, so we can get through this and that we can raise our consciousness up, because we're having a real cultural, political meltdown right now, and the only way out is up, is to get to these higher levels of development, compassion, wisdom, the intellect, so we can figure out what's going on and how to fix it, and how to work together to do the best for all beings and for our children and for those who come after us. And today we're starting a series of meditations. They're only 20 minutes, but we're doing PMP, Profound Meditation Program 3.0, which is kind of our flagship program, and it's 17 different 20-minute tracks. And the first 3 tiers are in Delta, and tier 1 has 1, 2, 3 tracks, and tier 2, 1, 2, 3, and tier 3, 1, 2, 3, and after that there's a releasing tracks, etc. But we're just talking about the first 3 tiers. I'm going to start with 1, 1. It gets you into Delta. I like it. It's a sound of rain, and I always go back and I use these tracks over and over again in my personal meditation. Although I feel like I'm Willy Wonka in Candyland. I mean, we have so many wonderful tracks that I really have to get some intuitive wisdom of which one to use at what day and for what. So let's put our hearts and minds together, and wherever you're at in your political persuasion, just ask that we get some, that we grow in wisdom and our capacity to get through this thing in a safe way without a lot of people being hurt and a lot of more damage being done. And with that, I will hand it back to Vanessa, and let's get this experience of supplication and second person prayer and meditation together. Oh, all right. Welcome. Welcome back. Uh, anyway, I don't know why I said welcome back. We're still here. And but thank you. That was really helpful. I was, can meditation be delicious? I think so. Mine felt pretty delicious. So yeah. So what can we do? The question. Following on what I was saying before, what can we do to, as John Lennon said, one of my favorite Beatles. He's right up there with Paul, George, and Ringo. Anyway, John Lennon said we can either be part of the problem or part of the solution. And how can we become part of the solution? Well, um, I think that the solutions to our current dilemmas in the United States and the world it's gonna be a process of evolution to higher levels of consciousness where we can uh, befriend the natural world, we can befriend one another, we can befriend the evolutionary spirals that we all partake in. And I think besides meditating, I think one of the most important uh, tools and lenses that has come to light in the last 20 or 30 years has been spiral dynamics or some version thereof, where we realize that there are different levels of development and we're all born at square one and we progress through these different levels. And not only do we go through that individually, but that also replicates human history at where our ancestors were at certain times. And then there were breakthroughs and shifts in levels of development, which were brought about by the inadequacies of the current uh, level that most people were dealing with. And they say that in Western Europe, that it was the advent of the Black Death and the plague that wiped out huge portions of the population, several different waves that kind of gave rise to the Enlightenment, modernity, to science, because the old ways of dealing with it, priest and incense and the bones of saints weren't hacking it. Okay, so it shifted everything, and it prepared, and we're still uh, experiencing those changes. So to be aware of that, and that people at, and these in spiral dynamics, they talk about first and second tier. And the first tier, there's traditionalism, which is blue or amber, and can speak, you change a couple of colors, but anyway, doesn't matter. Then there's modernism, capitalism, individual freedom, success, blah, blah, blah. And then there's green, which is the postmodern, and compassion, and environmentalism, and gay rights, animal rights, uh, gay rights. That shows my age, LGBTQ, whatever it is nowadays. And everybody's invited to the party, and the difference between maybe a traditionalist and a green person. You go to San Francisco and you see this just absolute mix of cultures and people of colors and everything. And the green person will go, "Oh my God, there's such richness here." All these different people. And the traditionalists, my God, it's the end of the Roman Empire. All these people, different colors, not like me. Anyway, those are just examples. But at these levels, everybody thinks you're absolutely right. And as we go into the second tier, we begin to realize, hey, these are all levels that we all go through, and they all have their really good values that we actually need. And if we progress to these higher levels without taking the goodness, because often there's a rejection of the previous levels, because that's why you're moving to the next level. But we have to go back and re-own that. And it also helps us to understand why some people may see reality completely differently than we do, and to have a little more compassion. And I think we need to really learn to listen a lot. And Pam and I have been living in northern Louisiana the last 3 years, and we're there to care for my aging mother-in-law, Pam's mother. And it's a very conservative red place. And yeah, I've just learned to appreciate the people and to listen and ask questions and to try to figure it out, so that I can be a help and service. And it has been much more about listening, so that I can actually perhaps learn something, so I can be of use. So when we realize that, and we can identify ourselves where we're at on the spiral. Well, that's a great example of self-reflection. You have to, look at yourself, and these are my values. Oh, that's where I currently reside most of the time. And I got some of this, and I definitely have some of that down there. And it just helps you to understand yourself and realize that that everybody's going through it. However, when we make that evolutionary journey conscious, right? It becomes a journey of enlightenment where we can be a lot wiser. We can be a lot more effective. Freud said that the purpose of his psychotherapy, Freudian analysis, was to make the unconscious conscious, and that's what these tools do. Also, I think a really important tool that if you haven't explored, one that I've worked with over the years with clients and just my life and helping me to sort out my particular issues, is the Enneagram. And it's pretty popular now. So most of you probably heard about it. I'm assuming, I don't know, but it is something really to explore. And again, it's a wonderful tool for self-reflection. And the act of self-reflection itself, looking at ourselves from outside of ourselves, letting our subject become the object, in itself seems to oil or grease the wheels or grease the turns of the spiral that makes it easier to us to negotiate it. And give a plug to a dear friend of mine, Leslie Hirschberger. Leslie Hirschberger, make note of that. She's one of the best Enneagram teachers on the planet right now, in my opinion. And there's a bunch of them, and she's really good. And to check her out on the internet. And I would really suggest, if you can afford it, which might be a really good thing to do in these times of the pandemic, where we're still kind of in lockdown and we have to stay at home. We have a lot of time that we might not have otherwise, is to set up a session with her and work with her. And when I was working with clients and coaching online, and then for about 8 years, Pam and I had our house in southern Utah full of our beloved drug addicts, and working with them, we'd always have them do sessions with Leslie online, Skype. Remember Skype back then? And we do both individual sessions and collective sessions, and they got a lot of real help out of that. So that's two good things that we can do. And I'm currently working Steve McIntosh's book, Developmental Politics, which is really good along those lines, but applying it to the cultural and political conditions that confront us now. So check that out and keep up your practice, okay? And integral practice. It's not just one practice. We got to take care, do the interior work of meditation. I think it's greatly facilitated with this technology that we're using here, save you years. And I think it does a lot of things that traditional meditation doesn't get to. Intellectual work, learning wisdom, reading the great books of science and literature and theology and art and all that stuff, so that we understand the amazing things that our human family is, and work our bodies, strong bodies, right? Food, yoga, strength training, cardio, putting that all together, supplements, however that looks. And of course, we'll give the spiritual interior practice, which is with the meditation and prayer, and how that evolves to you. And as you continue with the practices of the interior practices of meditation, you can start out in a particular school and do that, Vipassana or this or that. There's thousands of different methods of meditation. But I think as you discipline yourself to meditate, the practice itself begins to inform you of what your practice needs to be like and what you should be doing. At least that's been my experience. And I developed the whole practice of centering prayer in my practice before I ever heard of it. When I found the books, it was like, oh, I'm not psychotic. There's actually quite a tradition and a lot of wisdom written along those lines. So yeah, anyway, and I was told that this will be aired on the 20th. So the inauguration, well, let's just hope, and we're hoping and praying from a week in the past, that this will be a non-violent, peaceful transfer of power and democracy. However messy, and problematic, is better than the alternatives, as I think Winston Churchill said much more eloquently than I just did. So we're just, praying in advance that these things will work out and to the betterment of our human family, where we can get back to working on the issues that confront us and not just confronting one another and trying to take each other out because of our different views or our different levels on the spiral of development and evolution. So that's a big agenda, but it's the only game in town. And the other thing is you can just check out. I have actually friends that do that, and I can't handle it. I'm just like, let the world go on. I'm on my island, and maybe that I'm incapable of that. I don't seem to be able to pull that off very well, and I don't think it's really the noble path. Actually, I think we are called to, as we say in integral world, to wake up, clean up, grow up, and show up, and not necessarily in that order, okay? But we are required to show up, and practice is not just to put ourselves at peace, although we can achieve peace, and I occasionally do that, and it is an extraordinary thing that I hold on to and helps me in the times when I'm not feeling peaceful and I feel pain and I feel tormented. But we are to bring our wisdom and our gifts, however they are, into the world and show up and know that we're in this body, in this time, in this incarnation. We are at, we're on a time clock, and don't put off to tomorrow what you should be doing today, and do your bit, show up and do your best with your work and your self-reflection and your practices to show up in a way that is beneficial for the all, and that will look peaceful and sweet. And listening, sometimes it'll be ferocious. I don't know. You can't say it all looks like this. It just depends. But we're in the flow of wisdom in our lives. I think we know how to, in the moment, hopefully, if we've done the work and the gods are smiling on us, that we're able to show up in an effective and good way, and we can contribute. And that is probably one of the best feelings. That is karmic gold in the bank. Okay. And I think the good that we do in this life is what follows us when we move on to perhaps the next. I've heard that from people that I think are very wise. So anyway, food for thought. Anyway, love you guys, and let's hang in here together, and thank you. And we'll be working through the whole Profound Meditation 3.0, which is just a delightful, powerful evolutionary and healing tool that we have, and we'll be doing it together, and together is better. There's a lot of power in that. So that I will cease and desist from my talking. God bless and thank you.